Judy, is this a late appeal you're trying to launch?
No, not at all. I have 2 happy bucks.
Oh, okay. Why don't you kick it off?
I have 2 happy bucks because last week, no, I had 30 adult students begin the Organic Master Gardener program last night. Double what we ever had, so I was really happy.
You know, Judy, I know one of your students, Tammy Swinney's the library director.
Yes.
She announced on Facebook that she had joined that. She said that the only reason she really did is because she wanted to see OMG after her name.
Yes, she wanted to be MBA. Oh my God.
Any other happy bucks? All right. Well, then today it's my privilege to introduce our guest speaker, Jelena Reich, who is a newer member of our club and will be doing the classification speech today. I've said it before. Classification speeches are always my favorite, but Jelena, you didn't take the cake, you brought the Danish, so yours is my favorite already.
And my mom runs to banana table and she's like, there's something wrong with the price, they should be expensive. So my parents would work from 6 to 3 and they would come home, they would change their clothing and they would go to the fields to work for the rest of the day. Me and my sister would either join them and work on the fields after school, or we would stay at home and we would make suppers. So when they come home from the fields, they don't have to spend more time working and cooking for us. By the age of 6, I was able to kill and clean a bird and make a whole meal out of it. Both me and my sister would clean the house and do all the housework so the parents didn't have to. I will show you the house where I grew up. I don't have many pictures, but I found a few of them. So this is where I grew up. When my parents got married, they built a smaller house behind. And then every year we started building the house, and as you can see, it's still not finished. This is the elementary school that I attended from So even though life might sound like it was difficult back home, I was happy, I loved it, and I had a really good childhood. Until May 2nd of 1991, we were sitting in class, and a group of masked armed Croats showed up at the school. They took all of our kids and teachers to the gym, and they lined us up against the wall. It came as a surprise to everybody, and we were standing there for a while, and we all thought we would die that day. So pretty soon after that, all the people from the village came and they surrounded the school. Of course, they were armed with whatever they had at home. Some of them had guns, and some came with whatever they had in the house. Eventually, the Croats left the school and they exited, and there was a fight between both sides. All the Croats that came to the school died, and a number of people from the village were killed also in that battle. The word spread really fast throughout the country about the incident, and all the Serbian villages started barricading themselves in, and that's how the war started. During the war, we would spend a few weeks at a time in an unfinished basement without water or electricity. Parents would go whenever it was safe to get some food or water to cool it down. And usually the bombings would happen in the early mornings, so around noon it was safe to go out, have a bath, when the water was warmed up in the stove. And that's how we lived for probably a good year. As the fightings became more and more serious and they were coming more towards us, we knew that we had to move. So one morning at 4 o'clock in the morning, my dad was able to get a really small boat, and we were able to cross the river into Serbia. So we stayed in Serbia for good 2 years. We were staying with different families that we didn't know. And in 1 year I changed 9 schools, which was very difficult because we were moving constantly. So by the time you would get to know the people you're staying with and you would get adjusted to your teachers and classmates, we were moving again. So now if somebody asks me, do you want to move? I'm really against moving. I don't like that. So after the war, we went back home. And this is what we went back to. So our landmark was still standing, which is not nothing. It was a little bit destroyed. But the streets looked like this. Fortunately, our house where I grew up wasn't destroyed. It was hit badly from the outside, but it was fixable. The windows were broken, but that was an easy fix compared to what you see on these pictures. On the right picture, people were pretty much walking and digging whatever they could save so they could survive in any way possible. Also, just walking around was really difficult because as the army was pulling out, the place had landmines all over. So unless you saw somebody walking on one path, it was safe to go there. Otherwise, you really had to watch, and lots of people got injured just by walking there. After the war, it was bad when it came to finding food because we didn't have harvest for 2 years, so it was more difficult. And there was still quite a bit of tension between both sides. So United Nations sent peacekeepers to the area to try to work it out with both groups. Since they needed a place to stay and our house was still standing, we rented our house to them, and that helped us huge. They were paying in American dollars, and back at that point, that meant a lot. My dad also got a job as a welder for United Nations, and he worked 2 years for them. We became really close to 2 people, Mona and John, that were staying with us. My mom would cook for them, they would celebrate with us whatever we were celebrating. They attended my sister's wedding, And through them, we were able to get our paperwork to immigrate to either Canada or Australia. And when it came down to picking if we're going to come here or Australia, these are exact words that my mother said. She said, "We're not going to Australia, it's too hot there." And if she knew how cold it was here, I probably wouldn't be staying. So we were told we're going to Red Deer because it's an excellent area for my dad because he's a welder. So we pulled the map right away, and there was no Red Deer on the map. So we questioned where the place is because it was all cities were written in really tiny writing and we couldn't find it day after day. So they told us it's around Calgary or Edmonton, it's around there. And nobody could give us any more information about the weather or anything else. All we were told was, once you get there, Catholic Social Services group is going to be waiting for you at the airport, and there's a lot of jobs, you're going to be fine. So then the day came for us to come here, which was November 28th of 98. We got escorted by the United Nations peacekeepers to the Zagreb's airport, which is the capital of Croatia, and they stood outside to make sure that we got on the plane safely. My sister stayed behind, she was married, so she stayed with her husband, and it was really difficult for my parents to leave her behind, but it was for the best for the rest of the family. We arrived, we flew to Frankfurt in Germany, and then from there we flew to Calgary. Once we landed at Calgary, we came in our sweaters. We didn't know any better, so we didn't have any jackets, and it was -30 with wind chill. And it wasn't hot, so I guess my mother should have been hot. And we came with 2 small suitcases, and my father had $1,000 US in his pocket. And he said, once we pay rent and we buy food, we're good for a month. And a month is all we need to make it. And I never asked him what would happen after a month if we didn't make it, because we didn't have money for the tickets back. So we landed in Calgary Social Services. We had a little bag that said United Nations on it, and they recognized us right away. So we were approached. None of us could speak English. I could put a few sentences together, but that was about it. I was actually translating for my parents, and that wasn't the best thing. So they approached us, they pretty much picked us up and put us on a taxi to Red Deer. Once we got to Red Deer, we rented a really tiny 2-bedroom apartment without a TV. We didn't have a TV for the first 6 months or a vehicle. So wherever we went for the first 6 months, we had to walk. Luckily, Catholic Social Services were a really supportive group, and they provided jackets for us, so it made it easier. My father was extremely happy because wherever we walked, he would see signs saying hiring. He understood that word. So he said, we're going to make it. If everybody's hiring, there's absolutely no way that we're going to fail here. So every day after school, I would walk with him from place to place to place so I could translate and he could ask for a job. And even though he was so enthusiastic, it didn't work really well because he was a welder. He had all of his welding certificates that were good all over Europe. But here in Canada, they weren't accepted. So everywhere we went, the same story would repeat. Your documents are not accepted here, plus you have no Canadian experience, we can't hire you. But he didn't give up. We went every day. He picked a section of Red Deer because we couldn't walk the whole thing, it was too cold. So probably around a week and a half of walking on a daily basis, looking for a job for him. We went to one place and he said, this has to be it. We can't go home without getting a job. Like it was coming to the end of the month and we didn't have money for the next rent. So we went, and again, the same story, we don't have any experience. And my dad tells me, just translate and tell him, if nobody hires me, I'm never going to have any Canadian experience. Just tell him I want a chance and I'll show him I can do the job. So I'm quite sure I didn't translate it exactly like that because of my broken English, but I translated the best I could. And the guy said, if you think you can weld, show me. So my dad showed him, and I was sent home, and my dad stayed to work that day. He came back home really, really happy. He said, that's it. He got the job, we're good. So every day he walked to work, and after 6 months, we were able to save quite a bit of money, and we bought a used car that was the cheapest one we could find. And by that time, I was finishing half the year of grade 9. So my parents decided that if after that year we stayed in Red Deer, that would be it. We would move again because they would have made it a little easier on me. So they asked me if I wanted to stay there and go to Red Deer College, or if I wanted to move to a bigger city where universities are available. So we decided to move for hopefully the last time, and we moved to Edmonton. My dad got a better paid job. Now he had some Canadian experience, and he started working on his certificates. Also, his language got better. And he spent quite a number of years in Fort McMurray, and soon after he opened his own welding company, which was pretty good. I started at that time going to high school, and I attended Victoria Composite High School in Edmonton. I was a really good student. I was in IB program for all of my subjects except English. I was taking English 30, and I had to work extra hard to get a good grade so I can attend university. After I finished high school, I started taking psychology at U of A, and to pay for my school, I worked at various jobs. I worked at Walmart, Linens and Things, and Superstore. The only problem I had was I didn't have enough hours in the day to attend classes and to work somewhere so I can pay the full amount for my school. So I applied for night shift at Superstore, and I started at the lowest position. I was doing putaways, and then they moved me up to stocking shelves. I was working full-time at Superstore 5 days a week, and after the night shift, I would go home, shower, change, and go to my classes. I was able to pay for my university without getting a loan or getting money from anybody else, so it worked out pretty good. I also met my future husband at Superstore. He was working twice a week over the weekend in night shift. He was attending sociology and economics at university. So after 5 years of working for both of us at Superstore, we started slowly to move up in the company. I moved on to work for Loblaws Learning Center, where I was training other managers. It was a classroom setting. And he moved into assistant manager position. And then in 2008, we got married. That's my husband, Chris. And we bought a house on the south side. We were still both working. I moved back from the learning center into a Superstore, and we were both assistant managers. We weren't able to work at the same location because we were married, so we split us up. He was working on the north side, and I was working on the south of the city. And in September 8th of 2012, we welcomed our son Alexander to the world. He came in at 10 pounds 4 ounces, so he was a really big boy. He's 17 months now, and he has so much energy, and it's so hard to So after he was born, I took 3 months maternity leave, and I decided to go back to work. And my husband took the rest of the leave to watch him. After 10 years of working at Superstore, I knew enough was enough, and I wanted a change. So for a short period of time, I went and I worked at Walmart, and I found out it was the exactly same thing as Superstore. So I wasn't happy doing that. At that point, me and my husband decided we wanted to start our own business. And we looked at a lot of different things. We looked at clothing stores, we looked at dollar stores, And then we came across Cobb's, and neither one of us had any baking experience. It was all new to us. We were shopping at Cobb's, that's all we knew. We knew the product that we would buy. And it was quite an easy decision because we saw it was available, we loved the product, and we thought as long as we like what we're doing, or we believe in the product, it's going to be easy to learn. So we decided to go with that. Once we got interested, we were told there were 2 locations available. They told us Spruce Grove was open, and they told us Colic Canyon and north end of Edmonton was also open. We got interested in Spruce Grove, and as soon as we started filling the paperwork, they told us another franchisee got a location, and that wasn't open anymore. So we were a little disappointed. We drove to the north side of Edmonton to check the other location because we didn't even know where it was. And then we started filling the paperwork for that, and we got a phone call saying the franchisee for Spruce Grove, his finances fell through, and he wasn't getting it. So we jumped at the opportunity, and we got our first choice that we wanted. Joining Cobb's was really good for us because it opened a lot of opportunities that you can get involved in the community. Working as assistant store manager at Superstore, I could make any decisions of which groups we would support or where we want to donate. It came from higher up. Where with Cobb's, right now for our location, we make a decision if you want to support and how much support we want to give back to the community. So we opened the location on September 13th. It was Friday the 13th. And I guess it's a lucky date. And we donated on the first day $2,600 to the Parkland Food Bank. On a daily basis, we donate $1,000 or more worth of product to either Parkland Food. We deal with 2 other churches, and we also support a lot of hockey teams for kids. I guess when we opened, all the hockey moms found out that I have a really big spot for kids. So we get a lot of letters for that, and we support as many of them as we can. So we're still new, we're still learning, so as our business gets stronger, we're planning to support even more groups, and our goal, I was actually talking to my husband the other day, our goal is to get to the point where we don't turn any of those letters down, even if the amount is a little bit less of what we want to give. We want to say yes to all of them that come in. Oh, and actually, I'm going to go back to this picture. This is the first time I met Jelena when we opened. And I don't know how it came across. We started talking about community support, and I was telling her how I want to get involved. And she said, oh, you know, I go to Rotary. You should check it out. And that's how I got involved in this club. So that's pretty much my life condensed. A short version. You guys have any questions for me?
I missed how Dad selected Red Deer.
Pardon?
I missed in your talk how Dad selected Canada and Red Deer.
Red Deer wasn't our choice. He went by what my mom said, that Australia was too hot. But we didn't have a choice of a city where we want to go. We were picking a country, and then wherever they go with us.
So you say no choice, it was the United Nations that put certain lists of them?
Yes.
Okay.
Actually, what happens is our country agrees to take X number of refugees a year, and the provinces each agree to take X number, and then they just get round robin usually. Yeah, it's quite strange.
Our luck.
All right. Leslie.
What has happened with your sister? Is she still in Croatia, or she?
No, she's here now. She's on work visa, and she's trying to get her papers done, but it's a really long process.
Okay, so she's planning to join you.
Yes, she actually came for the first time to Canada for our wedding, and she stayed.
She wasn't frozen.
That year was tough.
John, did you end up taking a Canadian citizenship?
Oh yes, we came in '98, and the requirement is that you have to be for 3 years in the country. and then you can apply. So right after 3 years, exactly on the date, me and my parents were there, we applied, we did our exam, and we got our citizenship.
Is your husband born in Canada?
Yes.
Oh.
My husband is born here. His background is his dad is German, and his mom is Navy.
Judy?
I just wondered if you've been back. Have
Oh,
you been
yes.
back to Croatia?
Yes, after we got our citizenship, because we couldn't leave for 3 years,
No.
we went every year. And every time we would go, my parents would work as much on the house to fix it. They decided not to sell it. So we still have that property back home. So every time we go, we have a place to stay.
I think you and Ryan should compare notes to find out whether romances flourish better in Superstore or at Safeway. 2 Rotarians, 2 leaks, and 2 grocery store lunches. Thomas?
What language is your native tongue in?
Serbo-Croatian.
Is that what's in spoken in Borovo? Or
Yes. It's spoken in the whole country. So when people come here and they say, I speak Serbian, Croatian, and Bosnian, I speak 3 languages. That's not wrong, that's 1 language. So if I speak with somebody who speaks Bosnian, it's the exactly same language. It would be like a different accent a little bit, but we understand each other.
Jelena, what about Rotary has appealed to you?
I love the idea that as a group, we can make such a bigger impact than me alone. And what's helping me right now, you guys know all the organizations that need help. So it's really easy, just when I listen about the donor clinic or Ali's Cafe, all the information is here. You guys know who needs help in this community. So it's good to know.
What drives you to feel like you have to help as much as you're feeling like you have to help?
I didn't touch too much on it, but after the war, you saw the pictures how bad it was. We had a lot of different organizations that would come and they would bring us food. There would usually be a truck that would drive into the village and they would bring packages of food. They never had enough, so if you were the lucky one that day to get it, you had something to take home. If you didn't, you would go next day and wait in line. So there was a lot of people who helped me personally after the war and even when we were for 2 years away from home. And when we came to Canada, Public Social Services supported us. They waited for us at the airport. They gave us those jackets when we needed it. That all came from groups like this, somebody who wanted to give. So I want to do the same thing now. I know how it feels to be on the other side and not know what you're going to have for dinner, or yeah, you have to walk the next day a few kilometers, but you don't have a jacket. So there's still people out there, and now that are capable to give back, I want to do it.
Where are your parents now?
My parents are in Edmonton. My dad has his welding company, and my mom works for him, so, and he got his certificates, so he's in.
Well, Jelena, thank you. Your compassion and understanding is a huge asset to